I remember this day so vividly. It was a crisp, cool Sunday afternoon in January 2021. I asked my husband if I could show him something, but what he didn't know that I was about to show him was a property that I was hoping we could figure out a way to purchase and renovate. So we loaded up our 3 small kids and I said, I just want to show you something. So we come over, we pull up, we get out, and I remember just walking around, and it was everything I had dreamed of. My kids were running freely. They were underneath this beautiful, massive oak tree. In that moment, I just felt like this is our future. This is where we're supposed to be. And we're gonna get into the story today about how we found this property, how it almost didn't happen, and where others saw a big problem, we saw opportunities. First of all, I just want to thank you for being here. My name is Lena. I am so grateful that you chose to watch this video or listen to the audio podcast because I know your time is precious and you could be doing other things and you chose to be here with me. So I'm super grateful for that. And if you find any value in what we talk today, it would really mean a lot to me if you could share it with 2 people. When we first found this property, let me give you a little context. I have been stalking it for a couple months now. Like I mentioned, I am a licensed real estate agent. Back in 2021, I still had my foot in real estate. I had kind of stepped out because of the pandemic and choosing to put my focus on being the main caretaker for our children. But I still have my foot in it. I'm still working with a couple clients, so I'm constantly in the MLS, which is the multiple listing service. So this is where agents put houses for sale. And I was in here one day and I'm looking around, I'm like, what is this property? Where is this? This can't be right by us. You get this much land, like no way. And so I started looking at the photos and I thought, what has happened here? Is this a foreclosure? Did someone die? Because this beautiful, custom, Southern living floor plan home had cell phone pictures. I mean, really dark, grainy cell phone pictures in the listing. And all of the lighting fixtures were removed, the mirrors were removed, and it was unfinished. Right? Like the upstairs was just completely unfinished. And I kept thinking to myself, like, what is going on here? Someone must have passed away, someone, maybe is going into foreclosure. But the price tag at the time, I didn't think was something we could necessarily afford. So I just kept watching it. And they did a couple price reductions. They did a few more price reductions. And I went back into the listing. Being an agent, I had access to see had it been listed before, and it had. It had been listed like 3 times, but only for 90 days. And what that tells me is someone was testing the market. The owner just wanted to see, hey, if I put this out there, will somebody give me what I want for it? And then for one reason or another decided, nope, not ready to sell. And as I got into this further, I did realize that the original homeowner did not want to sell the property. And that's exactly what she had been doing. She had been testing it, getting some offers, and then finding a reason why not to actually end up selling it. But here we were walking around with our family, my kids again running around. I could just see them like almost having their own secret garden. It was everything we had dreamed of, just them to be able to go outside and freely play on their own. And it had a cottage house that I had always dreamed of buying, a house that had room for my dad if he wanted to live with us full time, or any family. I lost my mom about 11 years ago, so family is really the most important thing for me, and we hadn't had family around for a long time. So having a property that would give our parents the ability to have their own little house was such a plus. But guys, everything was so dated and dark and hadn't been touched in a long time, and the property sat for 2 years. So a lot of things were starting to fall apart. Everything again was missing mirrors and lighting and dark paint colors and some interesting design choices. And as I mentioned, they had left the upstairs completely unfinished. So I imagine a lot of people who came to look at this property thought, this is a problem. This is too much to take on. But for me, I saw it and I went, this is an amazing opportunity. I don't know if we will ever have this opportunity again in our lives. Like I said, having the real estate background, I thought, we could buy this property. I know what it would probably cost to put into it to bring it up to a modern, what we would want it to be and what that potentially would increase the value to. And at the time, interest rates were also incredibly, historically low. And I told my husband after we walked around, he goes, "Why are you showing me this? We can't afford this." And I said, "I think we actually can, because if we get it at this price and at this interest rate, and we're able to sell our other home at the time the real estate market was increasing and our other home we had updated and we're gonna make a nice return on." I said, "I think if we sell it and we take all of the equity from that other home, which is a big risk, taking all of that money and putting into this, we can afford it." Because here's another thing that you should know. When you buy a house that needs work and there's maybe some structural things going on, a lot of times the lender is going to require you to have a bigger down payment, like that 20% or so. I think our conventional loan, we didn't need quite that much, but we still needed all of the money from our other sale of our house to put in here. So we kind of scraped together everything we had, which I know there is someone gonna be on here saying, "Don't put all your money into a house." But again, it matters what is your dream. Where do you want your money to go? Some people might say, "Yeah, you're gonna lose money if you put it in," but this is our dream. We have small kids. We wanna put down roots. We'd been moving over the past 5 years from house to house. We had lived in, small townhomes and things while we were on the way to building our careers and helping my husband build his career. And now we had the opportunity to take a diamond in the rough and turn it into our dream. And I just knew that because we are conservative with our money, that we wouldn't be able to afford or wouldn't spend the money on the house in its finished state. So everything had to align just right for this to happen. And the main thing was that we were not going to sell our existing house for any other house. It had to be this property. This was it. So how do you secure a buyer on your other house that you only want to sell if you get this house? Well, here's how I went about it. And again, this is my real estate brain. There was a house in our neighborhood that had just gone under contract and had 30 offers. 30 offers, that's insane. So what does that mean? That means 29 other people who wanted that house didn't get it. And I thought, well, they might want my house. So I called up the listing agent. I said, "Hey, I'm also a real estate agent. I'm getting ready, I think, to list my house. Before I put it on the market, I was wondering if you have any clients who missed out on that property that you had listed and they might be interested in mine." And of course they did. Well, it just so happens to turn out that I got on the phone with a prospective buyer who was actually also a licensed real estate agent that same day. I explained to her the situation. I said, "Look, we have found a property that is our dream, but it's a big undertaking. We have got to have so many things fall into place for this transaction to go through. And the only way I'm going to sell this particular house, the one we're in now, is if we can get this other one. I'm not just gonna sell it to you and then be out of luck if we can't find a house." So I really had to protect us and protect our family. So how I did that is I wrote in a clause that said we could cancel selling the house to these other buyers in the event that this contract didn't go through on our dream property. And she agreed to it. She wanted to be in the neighborhood so bad, and she wanted the house that she was willing to agree with it because they were in a place that they didn't have to leave yet. So I was like thinking, oh my gosh, this is amazing. God, this is definitely for us. You've found us a buyer who's willing to agree with this. This has definitely got to be a sign that this is the right track for us. So we get under contract with the seller of the property, which was difficult to begin with. We agreed that we were gonna buy it as is. We weren't asking for anything. We did our inspections to make sure that we didn't have too big of a problem on our hands. We wrote out the budget of what we were going to have to spend, and we got under contract, which in all my years of being in real estate, I will say getting under contract on this particular property was the most challenging one. Now again, because we knew we were buying it as is, we thought, hey, this is gonna go pretty smoothly. We've done our inspection, we know what we're getting into, we've gotten our loan approved, we've gotten the other house under contract. I mean, it was really looking like our dream was going to come together. And then we got the appraisal back from the bank. Now, if you're buying a house, it's important to know that a bank is only going to give you the amount of money it says a house is worth. And the bank, well, not the bank, but the appraiser who came out had a real problem that they chose not to finish the upstairs of this property. So the house is 3 stories. You've got a main level, a basement, and the upstairs. And the previous owners, they were a little bit older, their children were grown, and I think they just decided, hey, we're gonna get more use out of the basement. We don't need to finish this upstairs. Let's finish the basement. Let's just frame out the upstairs. Let's go ahead and put in all the plumbing, but we're actually not gonna do anything. Well, this was a huge problem because the appraiser can decide what or how much he or she feels like each square footage in the house is worth, and all square footage is not the same. So your most square footage is going to be on a main and an upper level. A basement square footage is less. And he gave them the lowest price per square foot I have ever seen in all of my real estate years. $35 a square foot. $35! You can't even touch an older house in our area for less than $150 a square foot, and he gave them $35. Now, and this is on them. Again, it looked like the house had been empty for 2 years, and it was missing light fixtures and mirrors, and even an appraiser, that's gonna play a role in their mind. So we get back the appraisal and we have a $70,000 difference between what the appraiser says the house is worth and what we have agreed to purchase it for from the seller. Now, in this situation, historically, in a real estate market, I would say this is the seller's problem, right? For most of my years in real estate, if I ran into it, it was on the seller to say, hey, the bank doesn't think your house is worth that. You're going to have to come down on your price. Well, enter the late, 2021 market where things are going bananas and people are paying so much money over asking price, waiving contingencies, willing to pay the cash difference. And we couldn't do it. We literally could not afford to pay her the $70,000 difference, and it wouldn't have been wise to purchase a property and pay that much more knowing how much we had to put into it. So we kind of stood our ground and we said, hey, this is a problem. We cannot pay you this difference. And she lost her mind, of course. She was upset, she was insulted, I get it. I also was mad about the square footage, but again, the bank is only gonna give us what they say the house is worth. We're already putting in all of our sales, our proceeds into purchasing this. We've gotta come up with a solution. So she was not willing to budge. We ran all the numbers. We figured out what else above could we give that we're willing to and that makes sense and is prudent. We threw her our best Hail Mary. We said, this is what we can give you. Our loan is approved. We are willing to buy the property as is. We're not asking anything, but we can only pay you a small amount above the current asking price. And she said no. And the deal was terminated. And the dream that we had, all the excitement that we had, this vision that I had was crushed and it was gone. And it looked like it wasn't ever going to happen. And now I know it's just a house, right? But it was more than a house for me. It was seeing our future. It was the childhood I dreamed of for my kids where they could freely play outside and run around. It was a sense of purpose. It was being so excited about taking this outdated space and making it exactly what we wanted, because that's where my passion lies. Like, I love taking outdated things and making them flipping gorgeous, which is what I have built my platforms around. And I wouldn't have these platforms actually if this didn't end up working out the way it did. So I kept in touch with the listing agent. I said, just keep me updated. They put it back on the market. I called her every other day. I really did. I was probably so annoying. but I was persistent. And I just said, hey, we're still here. We still want to buy it, but this is all we can do. Our loan's approved, but this is where we're at. They put it back on the market. It was about 2 weeks of me calling her every other day. She calls me up one afternoon and she said, Lena, I'm so sorry. We have secured a basically all cash buyer who's willing to pay the listing price, which she put it back on for her original asking price, not what the bank said it was. And that was it. I really thought, okay, we can't compete with that, because if someone's buying a house in all cash, they're not gonna have the same concern about if there's a appraisal. Well, they might, just because of their own investment, but they're not as dependent on the bank giving them the loan. And I remember crying, and I remember feeling really sad, but also telling myself, like, it's fine. We're very fortunate to have the house that we have. We're just gonna keep updating it and making it even more valuable and keep raising our kids and be happy where we are. But I did come over to the property, and I sat in the driveway one morning. I had dropped my son off at pre-K, and I remember coming over here, and it was early. It was early in the morning, like 7:30. The sun was rising. It was beautiful. The sky was orange and little blue notes, and I pulled into the driveway, and I sat there and I prayed over it. And I prayed over this property, and I wasn't praying against these other people. I want to make that clear. I was not praying against these other people not to get the house. I was praying that if God had put our name on it, that it would be ours somehow, that his hand would be on it, that it's not for these other people to be hurt or harmed, but that it actually wasn't meant for them. And I have found in life that if you pursue something or you want something that God actually has not intended for you, it never goes real right. What I have found is that if you have a aligned pursuit, it is going to lead to a meaningful destination. And this house really aligned with everything that I had been dreaming of, all the past experiences. I felt like it led us to this point. So I sat in the driveway and I prayed over it, and I said, God, if our name is on it, nobody else should have it. And then the wildest thing happened 2 days later. I get a call from the listing agent. She says, the seller's terminated, they were on a verbal agreement. She's terminated the contract. I don't know that, they got into a spat over a small detail. I want to say like a closing date detail. And she said, she's willing to sell it to you for your offer. And I was flabbergasted. Actually, my husband and I had been on such an emotional roller coaster of purchasing this property where it looked like it was gonna happen and looked like it was for us. And then it was like, nope, this is not for you. Okay, now back to, we're on a high, it's for us. Almost to the point where it was scary to move forward. Like, is this for us? Is this not for us? Are we forcing it to happen, or is it being presented to us? So I went to my husband, I said, this is the craziest thing. They've come back and said that she's willing to sell it to us for what we offered her. And I think we both were just emotionally drained at this point, but thought, okay, you know what? We already know we're okay if it doesn't work out. And I felt so bad when I had called the other family to tell them that our deal had fallen through and that I wasn't gonna be able to sell this house to them. So there was that other factor. Like, my heart was broken for them. So for it to all work out and then get to call her, and I didn't want her to get too excited. I said, hey, listen, it looks like we might be back under contract. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to string you along. I'm just being kind of tugged around over here. And so that felt good to be able to call her to say, hey, our dreams aren't dead. They're not dead yet. So we were able to go back on, we went back under contract on the day that we were originally supposed to close. I thought that was so ironic. I was like, lady, you could already had your money and been out, but because you weren't willing to work with us, here you are a whole month later, and it's gonna be 2 months past when you wanted to close. And so then it actually started to become a reality that this was going to be ours. Because remember, we had gotten through the hard part of the inspection and the under contract. And I began getting excited again and thinking of all the things that we could do to this house. Now, it was a massive undertaking. It was a big risk to put all of our money into this house, to say we're gonna move here with 3 small kids and we're gonna renovate a house as we live here. We're going to live in a construction zone because, again, we're gonna do a little at a time as we can afford to. We can't snap our fingers and this be done. But going back to what I said of an aligned pursuit leads to a meaningful destination, I weighed this opportunity against everything. And I've come up with an acronym that I think will help you too. It's called making a personal pledge. And each letter stands for an area of your life that for an external opportunity to be correct for you or be fulfilling or to get you closer to your dreams, it has to align. So I looked at this and I said, 1, does it line up with our priorities as a family? L, so we're gonna do pledge. P, priorities, right? L is lifestyle. Does this opportunity, does this house, does living through renovations, are we okay with that lifestyle? E is expenses, right? If something is going to be right for you, you've got to be able to have the money for it, either the money to do it, or usually the opportunity up front requires some money for you, and then on the backside, maybe you earn some money. So expenses, could we handle this? Could we handle the monthly mortgage? Could we handle all of the projects? And it checked out. D is for dedication. Like, are you willing to take this on? Are you willing to work through some of the challenges? Because every opportunity, even though it might be something you're passionate about or your purpose, is going to have its challenges, is going to require perseverance. There are going to be times where you're like, why did I do this? I don't want to do this. And I have felt that living through renovations for 3 years. Like, what did we get ourselves into? But we're dedicated to it. We can see the vision. G is goals. Does it align with the goals that you have for yourself, your goals for your family? The goal at my time was to be more focused on being at home with my children. I had been on the fence about shutting down a business I ran with my sister. That was not in alignment with what I really wanted. I had been doing real estate, but it became clear that what my family needed from me in this season was no longer going out and selling real estate, but to be there for my kids who were experiencing some developmental delays and requiring lots of different doctor's appointments and therapies. So my goals at this time were, how do I be present for my family, but do something that I'm passionate about? And again, I discovered I love renovations. It had always been there. I'd just been overlooking. I'd always loved making videos. And that's really how my YouTube channel was born. And all of my social media was this project and lining up and going, this is my goal right now, but what can I do while I'm focused on this that makes me feel alive and passionate? E is energy. I have found that for an opportunity to be right for you, it has to be energizing. Does it give you energy? Does it suck your energy? Some people would say renovating a house and living there for 3 years, doing it with small kids, terrible, my nightmare, energy sucking. And they would be right not to take on this project. But for me, nothing gives me more energy. Nothing gives me more energy than, smashing up some tile, seeing a wall come down. I love it. I love every minute of it, even though it's hard sometimes. So I knew that taking this on would give me energy rather than take my energy and take away from that person that I wanted to be for my family. So again, pledge, priorities, L, lifestyle, E, expenses, D, dedication, G, goals, and E, energy. So if there's something in your life right now that you're contemplating, maybe it's buying a house, maybe it's starting your own blog, vlog, podcast, social media, taking a job, anything, quitting a job, make your own personal pledge. Write these things down and compare it against. So that's what I want you to do. I want you to write out your own pledge, your personal pledge, and then weigh the opportunity against this, because that's going to lead you to where you belong. Because again, remember, an aligned pursuit leads to a meaningful destination. And we certainly have not arrived to our end destination. It's been 3 years now, and we just finished really the biggest renovations on the inside. It took a lot of effort, it took a lot of patience, it took a lot of money, to be honest, but it's where we knew we wanted to go. Forgot to drink my coffee as we were chatting. Check out some of my renovation videos. If you're listening this to the audio version, hop on over to my YouTube. You can find them linked here. Thank you again so much for being here, and I would love for you to share this with at least 2 people that you think might find it valuable. And I'll catch you guys next time.